If you can hear me, glad I'm still here.
I have a terrible producer. I'm going to fire him here any day.
Yeah, right. Keep pushing those buttons.
Just keep pushing the buttons, Mike. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we do. We of course are going to talk pork production. I do want to talk with you about something that Chuck Grassley mentioned the other day. One of the great things about this job is I get to talk with Grassley and Ernst almost every month, and Randy
Yes.
Feenster is usually available.
It's really
I
nice.
just have to call him, so I haven't called him, so I got to call him. But anyway, he talked about the Waters of the USA Act. You're familiar with the Waters of
Yes.
the USA Act, and Senator Grassley didn't paint a very good picture of the Waters of the USA Act going away in the Biden administration because they're big climate people. You know,
Yeah.
matter of fact, a lot of the money of the trillions of dollars they're spending is devoted to climate change. Which I could go off on climate change for an hour. I mean, I don't think the Chinese and the Indians and the Russians are that much into climate change, or they don't care. So, President Obama's assertion that, oh, yes, the world will follow our policies on climate change. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Greg. I can't control myself.
I
I can't control myself.
Well, I did not hear your interview with Senator Grassley.
Okay, well.
But yes, this issue is Waters of the U.S., which is
Waters of the U.S.
Yeah, is a important issue to your listeners out there because essentially what it did would control 99% of the rainfall water that would occur. And that had an impact not just with farmers or businesses, but it would have an impact with homeowners and cities, counties. And so that's why here locally, and think back when President Obama was in office, that we had county boards of supervisors very concerned about this, and some of the alliances that were being put together at that time, what you would call as unusual bedfellows, because there was going to be an economic impact that somebody was going to have to pay extra.
Yeah.
Now, when you mentioned the climate change or the climate crisis that they are always referring to, yes, there are certain things that we can be part of the solution, and agriculture talks about being part of the solution right now with sustainable and regenerative agriculture, which means we're planting more cover crops, we're planting more buffer strips, we're doing more of the saturated buffers. Our corn and soybeans that are out there growing are taking in carbon dioxide right now and turning that into oxygen. So when you start talking about making the world a better place with cleaner air, well, we have been doing that. Fuel emission standards and some of those fuel efficiencies make a difference in that. But yeah, the WOTUS rules, what the big concern is for your listeners out there would be the overreaching regulations that would impact not just agriculture, but all of our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means trucking of supplies, well, that means there will be a higher cost to consumers.
Mm-hmm.
If there's more regulations that are going to cost more dollars, generally those costs are passed along to consumers. So you're really being taxed without you're being taxed. And then, of course, in the big picture is, why does the U.S. always have to pay the most and abide by the rules, and other countries don't?
Well, because we're noble and rich, you see, we should pay more. I don't get that. A year ago, the price of fuel was like $2.20. Now it's $3.20.
Yeah.
And it's over $1.
Yeah.
$1 increase, and you start counting that up every time you put fuel in your car
absolutely.
or diesel in your truck.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. Climate change is going to cost us a lot of money and put a huge dent in our budget. I mean, our family budget.
And we like to say in agriculture, we're doing some things to help mitigate those concerns that are out there. And maybe that's with the type of equipment that we operate now, all the fuel emission standards that are on trucks or on tractors or on combines and sprayers and all those things that we as farmers do. And of course, we make less trips now than what we used to with conserving fuel, hopefully. And it's more efficient. But yeah, that's a big issue. And I'm glad that you talked to our political people because, in Washington, D.C., at the federal level, the biggest thing is those unintended consequences of what happens. And we have that with an issue. I'm going to segue to an issue that is currently occurring, and some of your listeners may have been hearing about Proposition 12, which is the California proposition that had to do with these animal housing spaces that poultry and veal and pigs would have to abide by if the pork is sold and consumed in California. And this ruling just came down from the U.S. District Court. It was the Ninth Circuit Court in California, which is a very liberal court. And that's why it was filed there. And the American Farm Bureau and National Pork Producer Council, we've been defending this for over 2 years now. And right now we're on the losing side of this. But there are still other applications to go.
Well, that was that horrible ripoff by lawyers in California with the glyphosate suit.
Yeah.
I did considerable research on glyphosate.
Yeah.
I find no causation between glyphosate and cancer.
Yeah.
But this was something that lawyers concocted, as they did with the tobacco people, and the ones that are going to walk away with billions and millions of other people's money are the lawyers.
Yep.
And we have to use glyphosate.
Well, the company that had the patent of that originally was Monsanto.
Yeah.
And now Monsanto in the last few years have been bought by a German company, Bayer. And Bayer knew what was going on with the $700 million lawsuit that was going on. And
they bought Monsanto.
Oh yeah,
anyway.
They knew what was going on with it. In 15 years, it's been going on. And but anyway, the point of this is that once again, it's a little bit of the unintended consequences of what goes on. But, in the legal realm, this Proposition 12 is now becoming more widely known because, as a gentleman called in 30 minutes ago on this station, asking us about the supply chain of ham to a Fort Dodge restaurant, that the supply chain was not keeping up and did not have the availability of ham. Well, this is what's going to be occurring in California to some degree. Most recently, just on Monday, there was interviews being conducted in California where consumers were asked about having less pork available and the price of pork going up because of the Proposition 12. I think it passed by like 68% margin. But the question that was asked was, do you favor having animals having more space for movement and being able to exercise and all this?
Well, didn't that happen with chickens out in California?
Yeah.
Every chicken had to have a 2-bedroom apartment provided for. I don't know.
Well, this Proposition 12 had to do with, as I said just a minute or two ago, the veal calves, the chickens, and the egg-laying birds, poultry, and of course pigs. Now, what does that mean to an Iowa pig farmer? Well, number one, what it means is housing standards have to change. And that means that any pork that's going to be sold into the California market has to abide by these housing standards, which was basically taking the space of the animal and doubling that, or maybe even not quite a full double, but depending on the stage of growth of the pigs. So if you have a barn that houses the animals, and that barn may hold 1,000 animals, well, now you're not going to be able to house 1,000 animals in there if you want to harvest that pork and sell it into the California market. You have to have a larger footprint space with the animals that you may want in that barn. So it's a big issue. And
what will that mean?
Actually,
it's probably not the most comfortable way to spend your entire life if you're a pig confined in a crate. But when we had free range hogs, as you and I have talked before, and I've talked with several other people, when farmers, when I was a kid, would just have a hog lot, we'd lose a lot of baby pigs. I mean, the sow would fall asleep on her baby pigs, and every single day somebody'd lose a pig because they'd been smothered by the sow.
Yeah.
So the crates were one way to stop that.
Yeah. And during the technology and innovation changes that we have in the pork industry, we actually have improved the animal well-being. because
Oh, I believe that.
when those animals are in a crate where they can stand up and move around. Now, when they're having their little pigs, yeah, they can't move around very much, but that's when you want to protect the little pigs with your example. But yeah, this was once again an overreach. And from the pork industry, we know that California's got over 40 million people that live there. And the amount of pigs that they raise in California will supply 14% of the pork consumption needs in California, which means you've got to raise a lot of pigs from other states that are supplying the pork food needs there. So this comes back to, and I won't bore your listeners with it, but it's the Interstate Commerce Clause. And any of our legislators can speak very freely to that. We've had National Pork People on the air and a lot of interviews, but the Commerce Clause means that one state, for example, South Dakota, cannot impose regulations on Iowa producers if we want to send our meat products into South Dakota. And this is exactly what California has done. There is another lawsuit that's also going on, also with Proposition 12, that's still making its way through the courts. But anyway, it's a big issue, and more will be happening on this in the future. We know that.
Yeah, I think that South Dakota should be glad to get any kind of import to their state.
Well, what they do need is they need more rain than what
They need
Iowa has
more
had.
rain. All right.
Yeah, it's sure. The crop progress reports just came out Monday. Dwayne Murley always provides that information. And actually on this station,
Yeah.
your listeners can hear Murley's reports also in the ag reports. But yeah, they Western Iowa and South Dakota, North Dakota, Western, Northern Minnesota, they're extremely dry. But hey, one other issue I want to just comment on real quickly before my time is up. You've asked me over the last several years that we've always talked about African swine fever, ASF.
Right.
And just last week, I kept using these words to your listeners out there about the biosecurity and the surveillance programs. And the surveillance programs means the training that we do as producers, feed truck drivers, hog haulers, veterinarians, supply companies, what we do on our farms to help reduce the risk of disease transmission. And as I had said to your question last week, that, you know, there's concerns, there's still some African swine fever in Europe with some feral pigs in Germany, Indonesia, Taiwan, still having problems in China. But we just have learned yesterday that it's now in the Western Hemisphere, which is Dominican Republic.
Oh.
And so when I use the word surveillance, and actually I printed off a copy of this earlier before I came in here, United States Customs and Border Patrol, which we have a lot of people that travel from the Dominican Republic, which is on an island also with Haiti. Okay, you know, that island is the two countries together, and then there's a border that goes up and down the mountains there from one side to the other side. But because of the surveillance testing, the cooperative testing that our USDA and the APHIS, which is Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, they found some positive cases in Dominican Republic. So it's interesting. Years ago at the World Pork Expo, I met some pig farmers from the Dominican Republic.
Right.
And because they supplied all the pork to the hotels and restaurants for the travelers, you know, those people that go on vacation there. I've never vacationed in the Dominican Republic, but you and I both know a lot of people that have.
Sure.
So these are the pig farmers from that country that raised pork for those restaurants. And now they have a problem. And now the United States, especially down in the ports coming into the eastern and southern part of the United States, are extremely concerned about bringing any type of disease into the United States.
I bet.
Because it's only a few hundred miles offshore right now.
Sure it is. Sure it is. Wow.
So it's a big deal because, as I've been saying for the last 3-4 years, this has been an issue in China, is if we have a positive case here, doesn't matter what state it's in, it shut down our exports, which is 28 to 30% of all the pork we raise in the United States. It shut off our exports immediately.
I hate to sound like a paranoid conspiracy therapist, but these viruses seem to be coming out of China or have some origin in China.
Interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this African swine fever actually, there's a kind of a sister virus to that called classical swine fever. And so these are things that are in the pork industry, but ASF has not been in the United States for over 40 years. Okay. We've been doing our monitoring, we've been doing our biosecurity and custom border patrol, and all those things that we deal with are important. But I do want to make sure your listeners know that it is not a threat to human health. Okay. It's only a pig virus, and the pigs cannot transmit it to people.
Right.
So from workers, that we're always talking about workers, people, and their well-being, and it's not a food safety issue. So we don't have any of those concerns with transmission or consumption or people having a problem with it because they eat the meat. That's not a problem. So we just want to keep it off the shores of the United States, though.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Did you? Can you email that to me or not?
Yeah, I can give you some
Okay.
of that information. Yeah.
Do you have my email address or not?
I have your information. Actually, I have a copy of something right in front of me.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's ended on a high note that we're doing what we need to do in the industry and trying to keep people employed and people fed at economic price.
You got it, man. County Fair coming up.
Yep.
Are you going to be out there? Or?
The county fair here in Webster County is done.
It's already over.
Yeah, that was a couple weeks ago.
All right.
We had grilling. Yeah, we had a grilling last night with the National Night Out. Chief Roger Porter and his crew and the sheriff's department and EMS and fire department. They were all downtown, and we have a couple grillings next week with the back to school bash on Tuesday here in Fort Dodge. Diana George helps set that up. And then right across the street next Wednesday, Mike, stop over at the Community Health Center.
Sure.
They're going to have an event from, I think, about 4:30 till 7 next Wednesday night here in downtown Fort Dodge.
Yeah, Ann Fazer is I hate to say Ann Fazer is my girl. Somebody will accuse me of sexism, but she's my primary provider over there.
Okay.
Medical provider. I go see her first before I go see anybody else. And I've been very happy with Community Health Center and with Ann Fazer in particular.
Sure.
So
they have quite a staff over there.
Yeah. You know, I know I'm getting older and I forget things, but I was just asked to do some announcing out at the track at the Webster County Fairgrounds.
Oh, sure.
So I thought that was in conjunction with the fair, but
yeah, they've redone the track out there.
Yeah.
That group that's putting that together spent a lot of time and good entertainment for families to go out there.
Sure. Yeah. So
especially if you're a track announcer,
which I have done, by the way, for 40 years or something like that. Greg Hoare, our guest. Greg's with the Webster County Pork Producers, and they brought you this information today. It's 4:00. KVFD Fort Dodge. News is next.